What's up, everybody? So today, I wanted to talk to you. This is a video that I've been wanting to do for a while, just something that I've kind of had in my head, and it's just this idea of like what makes a baseball card valuable, and is there anything we can learn? Because, baseball cards, in terms of value, they've only been around for, in terms of baseball cards being valuable, has really only been around since the 80s. When Beckett came out with their price guides, then you could look up your card. I know there were price guides before that, but Beckett really kind of popularized the idea that baseball cards could be worth something. You could look up your card. It's part of the reason why I got into the hobby. And I just find it interesting. Like, we all know, everything in terms of value is always based on supply and demand. So you can always look up the supply of a card by looking at the PSA population reports. You can, of course, on the refractors today, they have the stamp on the back to let you know how many cards are out there. But one of the things that's so difficult is figuring out, well, what's the demand of this card, and will the demand continue to go up, or will the demand of the card continue to go down? And, one of the things that, I think the parallel between baseball cards and artwork is not that far off. I mean, people have been collecting artwork for hundreds and hundreds of years and have had a value in terms of what artwork is valuable and what artwork is not. One of the things that I think is interesting is if you close your eyes right now, and think of any painting in the history of paintings, what do you guys think of? I don't know. I would think that most of you, if you close your eyes, you think of the Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci. And it's fascinating to me that painting is, famous. I mean, it's just, in my opinion, it's just kind of meh. It's a nice painting. But it kind of reminds me of, the Honus Wagner. There's a lot of controversy around it, and the supply was really low, and it just happened to be at the right place at the right time, and that's what makes it the most famous painting ever. But to give you guys a little bit of history, so this painting was painted by Da Vinci in 1911, and it was in French palaces. It was in royal bathrooms. At one point, Napoleon owned it, and it was in his bedroom. But it was a famous painting. It was, obviously it was painted by Da Vinci, but it was never this big, important painting the way it is today. So you ask yourself, well, why did it go from kind of just another painting in a museum to, without a doubt, the most famous painting ever? And basically what happened was in 1911, it was in the Louvre in Paris, and an Italian carpenter that had worked at the Louvre went ahead and stole the painting, and for an entire day, nobody even noticed that it was gone. That's how much of it, if it was as famous as it was today, there's no way it would take an entire day before anybody even noticed it. And so this Italian carpenter stole the painting, and for 2 years, the painting had just disappeared. It was completely gone. And eventually, 2 years later, they finally find the painting. They find the guy that stole the painting. But during that period, there was so much controversy about what happened. How could they let this happen? And by the time they found the painting again, it had become literally the most famous painting ever. So if you ever wonder why, because I always wondered, like people have all these theories, like, oh, it's because, Da Vinci thought it was the greatest painting ever, and there's these conspiracy theories that he carried it everywhere he went, and people stare and be like, oh, the Mona Lisa's eyes are staring at me, or they go, oh, Da Vinci painted himself. Like, there's all these bogus kind of people coming up with random ideas as to why the Mona Lisa is famous. But really what it comes down to is it was stolen and it was missing for 2 years. And okay, so what can we learn about the story of the Mona Lisa and understanding why it became popular and why it's so ridiculously valuable today? Number one is that controversy is good when it comes to collectibles. That may not make a lot of sense, but it does make sense when you start to think about it. I mean, look at the Johnny Bench rookie versus the Pete Rose rookie. So the Johnny Bench rookie in a PSA 6 goes for about $150. Whereas the Pete Rose rookie goes for about, in a PSA 6, goes for about $1,500. That is 10 times the amount. And most people would consider Johnny Bench to be the greatest catcher in the history of the game, played for the same team that Pete Rose played for. And Pete Rose isn't even in the Hall of Fame, but every year we talk about Pete Rose, we talk about whether he belongs in the Hall of Fame, and his name gets brought up over and over and over again. Harold Baines, when people are determining, like, did he even deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, that was good for his baseball cards. It increased the value. How about Shoeless Joe Jackson? I mean, until Field of Dreams came out, I had never heard of him. I mean, I was a little kid still at the time that movie came out. But after that came out, Shoeless Joe Jackson was a household name. Everybody knew about the Black Sox scandal. And good luck trying to get a copy of the 1915 Cracker Jack card. That card is insanely expensive. It's just for an example, when you look at Barry Bonds, I think that Barry Bonds' cards are going to continue to go up. Mainly because, people are going to be arguing about whether he belongs in the Hall of Fame or not. And most people would think, okay, well, in order for the value of Barry Bonds' cards to go up, he needs to get into the Hall of Fame. Well, I actually totally disagree with that. I think that if he doesn't get into the Hall of Fame, that's actually good for the value of his baseball cards. Now, I understand there's a lot of people that don't like Barry Bonds. I totally understand that, but it doesn't really matter that you don't like him or not like him. His cards are going to continue to go up in value because people are going to continue to debate about whether he belongs in the Hall of Fame. Like this whole LeBron James versus Michael Jordan being the best basketball player ever just increases the value of Michael Jordan cards, increases the value of LeBron James's cards. Controversy is good for collectibles, whether it be that they're in a movie, that there's something going on. Now, criminal activity doesn't always add to that value, but controversy in terms of like baseball controversy, like scandals that happened while they were playing for the team, those are all really good for collectibles, which may not make a lot of sense, but it's true. The second thing is what I've noticed over the years is that the more you see something, the more you want it. Here's an example. So the SMR magazine, I just got this in today. This is the brand new SMR magazine. And just to give you guys, this is a perfect example. Like on the back, so every time when I get these SMR magazines, the value of the cards that are in this magazine is totally bogus because by the time you read this, the cards have fluctuated anyway. I don't read the magazine for the value of the card. But what I do, I actually go through every single magazine and I look at what cards are being featured because the cards that are being featured are going to be the cards that people are going to want. The more that you see a card advertised over and over and over again. I mean, when I grew up, in every magazine that I looked at, it was always the 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle, and you guys know how much that card has increased over the years. But every time, you'd see the 52 Topps Mantle, and when you look at the population, it's really not that. You would think that the supply is really low on a 52 Topps Mantle, but it's not as low as maybe you'd think. But if you look at the back of this SMR magazine, of course, it's got the Ty Cobb, which with the red back, which if you guys have watched the Ty Cobb card over the last couple years, that card's gone way up in value. Of course, it's got the Wayne Gretzky rookie card. It's got the Honus Wagner, which I wouldn't even worry about. And then, of course, it's got the Trout. Once again, the 2009 Bowman Chrome Auto Trout, which just magazines and websites, they just repeat the same cards over and over and over again to the point where you're like, you go from that card's kind of lame to now I want that card because I've seen it so many times over and over again that you end up wanting it. So it's just something to keep in mind when you're collecting. I know it may not make a lot of sense. One of the things that I highly recommend is I always keep my eye on, there's a website where you can look up the most watched baseball cards on eBay. So if you want to kind of keep an eye on like what are people looking at, what are people keeping their eye on, that's basically, you know, a lot of the purchases that I do are based on, okay, the top 50 most watched baseball cards on the internet. These are the cards that people are keeping an eye on. Of course, you got to be careful because sometimes like you end up buying a card that's too hot, so you don't want to get caught in that. But just kind of be aware of what cards are being advertised, what cards are being watched, like have an idea as to where the market's going, because it'll definitely help you in terms of making the right purchases. So in closing, I'd love to know what you guys think. What is going to be the next Mona Lisa of baseball cards? I mean, you guys, everyone has been, you know, we've been on the 2011 Topps update, Mike Trout. That card has become the new Mona Lisa of baseball cards. The Ronald Acuna 2018 Topps update bat down card has become like another card that everyone seems to want. So what do you guys think? What is the next Mona Lisa of baseball cards? I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. Let me know what you think. And thanks for watching. I will talk to you later. Peace.